Good morning, everyone. So, today I'm playing with number one. I ordered this brush, which is a 16 round Princeton Heritage. So funny because I don't even remember ordering it, to be quite honest. I have never ever in my life worked with a brush this large, and I don't usually buy the Heritage. But long story short, it came. I could have returned it, and I thought, you know what? Maybe it's meant to be, and I'm going to play with it. So I'm actually loving it. I do love the short handle, which is the type of brush I like to paint with. The longer handles are made for painting a little bit far away on an easel, which should be more watercolor and oil. So I really like this fat handle and brush. It's pretty cool. But look at that. So I normally use an 8 round. As you can see here, this is ginormous, but we're going to play with it today. And then yesterday, I went to a little store out here, and they had this really fun little flower. I had seen these before, and I thought it was kind of cute, and it might be fun to paint. You could add these into your bouquets, especially for fall, and they might be fun with the colors and so forth. And I'm just realizing I have this band on me. I went to watch my daughter compete in an event this morning, so excuse the band. I can't get it off. Anyway, back to this. So I thought this would be a fun little filler flower in your bouquets, especially for fall, and they're just fun. They're like little pom-poms. I Googled it and I found out it's called a crass, and I may be pronouncing this wrong, craspedia? Craspedia. But look at how fun that is. So we're going to paint those today, and I'm using this big brush, which I'm actually really liking the feel of it. So let's see what we can do. The other thing is I ran out of my Artista paper. So I am back to using this Meeden, which is just a little bit more money, but it's 100% cotton. And these are 10 by 7 sheets. And also, as you can see, I painted that yesterday. The other thing I really like about it is it comes on this block. So no matter how wet you use, yesterday this was a rather wet painting. And because it's on a block, which means it's sealed on all edges, it doesn't warp. When you're done, what I will do, let me show you. Let's see, let me find, I have a little tool, but you can either slide a credit card, slide your finger in there. Many times I'll just use a knife, and it works better if you have something. Your finger isn't so great. Let me grab something, 1 second. I actually have a really cool little tool they sent me, and it works really well, and you just slide it in. It's kind of like a letter opener. But this is what you do, is you just go around the edges and you loosen that seal, and there you go. And no warping, no nothing. So it's pretty cool. I like this. So I'm going to paint on this today because it's what I have until my Artisto comes in. And it's actually is a really good paper. It's a little bit more than the Artistos. And as you know, I just really like how the Artistos are on that ring binder, because I like to keep all my ring binders and kind of journal them. Okay, so let's get started. I'm also using my MeiLang palette. I've been using this bigger palette that has the metallics in it, even though we're not going to use the metallics. And I've got my 2 containers of water. This is also Meeden. As you can tell, I love the Meeden products. I've used so many products, love these. Really solid. This dish will not knock over and spill. I've got my wash water, my clean water, and I'm just going to spray my paintings to get those activated. And I've got my paper towel. Okay. And my palette, that's also made by the same company. I have a bunch of their palettes because, as you know, I love palettes. This one's nice. It's a nice size. I can hold it very easily in these tutorials. And their ceramic products are just beautiful. I love them. So I've been using these palettes lately. All right, well, let's get started. I'm going to go ahead and wet this brush, which I'm not kidding you guys. It feels so good in my hand because it's a size 16. It's huge. I've been painting for 40, 50 years, never painted with a paintbrush this big. Size 16 round. So I'll link that for you if you want to play with that a little bit. So let's draw our stems for this. And I'm going to go in and let's pick up in MeiLang. I think they refer to this as their tree green. You can really use whatever green you want. If you like the darker green, use a darker green. Kind of mixing here some olive green, which is the same in Winsor Newton. And this brush, boy, it holds a ton of paint, as you might guess, because it's so fat and big. And then let's go in and draw our first stem. So I'm using the point of my brush. Let me make sure you can see me here. There we go. Using the point of my brush, holding my brush at about, I don't know, not quite parallel to the paper. And I just want to have light pressure here. And let's just draw that stem. And one thing I did notice about this brush is because it holds so much paint, it really is great if you're working wet and wet. So let's just do a couple stems here. I'm going to pick up a little bit more paint. Ooh. There we go. And let's work with those. So let me wash and rinse my brush. Dab it off. And now I'm going to, let's go into our lightest yellow color first. So we're going to do our first layer, which is just like a cad yellow. You could add a little lemon in there if you wanted, but I'm going to basically go for that cad yellow. And just that light kind of watery consistency, and just using the tip of my brush, I'm going to start going around and creating that circle. Now you want to leave a lot of white space here. Oh, I just had a little squirrel run by. Sometimes I feel like I'm in a little zoo here. They come by and stare at me through the window here. It's so funny. Okay, so I'm getting this general circle here. And for the most part, I'm filling in all of the circle at the same time. There's a lot of white space in here. So there we go. Now what I'm going to do is go in and pick up maybe, I think this color I've got on here is a yellow sienna. You could also use ochre, yellow ochre in your Winsor Newton. And now I'm going to go in and just create a light shadow on the left side of this little flower. Isn't this a cute little flower? I thought, oh my gosh, this is perfect for fall. And I'm just using such light pressure here with the tip of my brush. Another reason why you always want to really protect those tips. Now I want that to be a little bit more thicker paint. So I just went in and picked up a little bit more paint, not so watery. So it's probably now I've got on my brush, oh, maybe an 80-20 ratio, 80 paint, 20 water. And there you go. I've kind of created these darker colors. I might even go into this burnt sienna and pick up a little bit of that and tap that in just around the bottom to create a little bit of shadow, something like that. Okay, let's go on to our next one here. So I'm going to start over again with that cad yellow. Being careful, I need to wash my palette. Just tapping off a tiny bit so I don't have too much water, and let's create that circle again. Now I'm going to do 4 of these little round crespedias. I'm sure somebody's probably going to correct me on that if I'm saying that incorrectly. And I'm going to try and do a few of them, maybe a different size. So maybe the one behind I'll do a little bit smaller. Look how interesting this is. That shadow in there. Isn't that fun? So again, not too much like puddles here. And you can tap off your brush if you're not sure. If you have too much water, might pick up a little bit more of that. And just keep tapping in till I've created this beautiful circle. There you go. Something like that. Okay. And then let's go into our yellow ochre. Not too much water on that brush because you don't want it to just become a big blob and puddle and pool of water. I'm going to add a tiny bit more. Might even pick up some of that yellow sienna. And touch in here. We're just adding in some shadow. So you don't want to do too much, and you definitely don't want too much water on your brush. If you're ever not sure, remember you can always tap off on your paper towel. Now I haven't got too much water on there because it's not. I'll show you what happens if you do. You're going to get much bigger dots. So it's a nice way to kind of check that. And then just going in, continuing with these dots. Now I think what I'll do is go in. Let's this time grab a little bit of cad orange. And maybe some of that burnt sienna. So I've got kind of this deep orange color. And we'll go in with that. See what we get. I kind of like the orangey color in there. I think that's kind of pretty. Very fall-like. These would be really interesting in a little painting, I think. Okay. And then I want to add in a little bit darker. So I've got burnt umber. And I'm just going to add in around the bottom where there might be a little shadow. What I was impressed with this brush is I could get these big thick lines, but I could like more like this, and actually this could do a really thick line, but I also could get these little tiny dots, which I love that versatility in a brush. I really appreciate that, where I could kind of go both ways. That's always a big selling point for me. So there we go. Let's go on to, I'm just going to wash and rinse my brush here, dry it off, and let's create another little one here, maybe one here. Okay, so I'm going to pick up that green paint. Really get it good and wet there. If you want to play with that color, you can do that. And we'll create one more little one coming up here and then maybe one here. So using a light pressure, holding my brush about where the handle starts, this beautiful, thick, rich handle, and using mostly the tip of my brush. And there we go. So I'm going to put one right here, and then I want a little one there. So I'm going to pick up a little bit more paint. And, oh, that was too much. So that was an awful lot of water. We'll just pick it up. I don't freak out about that, although that kind of surprised me. And let's do another little stem coming up there. So again, this is something I really loved and appreciated about this brush, is I could get these pretty thin strokes. I mean, look at how tiny that is for such a giant brush. And then go back to my cad yellow, start that process again. I've got a little bit of a thick mixture there. And I'm going to try and make this one a little bit smaller than these two so they're not all the same size. But how fun. I would even play with these colors and make them oranger, browner, maybe tiny bits of green in them. Just anything that kind of resembles a fall type color. And then we'll go into that yellow ochre. We're going to do some little highlights here. Or not highlights, actually shadowy areas. Pick up our darker brown, which you could use a burnt sienna. Just any of your darker browns you've got there in your palette. Just like that. And this one might even have a tiny bit of shadow because of this little ball here. So maybe this whole plant has a lot more shadow, or little flower. I'm going to go in and pick up some of that really dark brown, orangey brown. I think I want a little bit more orange on that. Let me pick up some of my cad orange. There we go. Yeah. Just love that cad orange, especially for fall, right? And making sure not to get rid of all of the white space in there. We want some of that white space. I'm going to wash and rinse my brush. I feel like I have too many of the other colors on there, and pick up more of that orange. There we go. Yeah, just make sure you don't fill in every bit of white space, because that's what's so interesting. There you go. I like that. Okay, and then we'll do our last one here. So I'm just going to wash and rinse my brush because I need to go to a lighter color. And let's start with that cad yellow. Just getting the tip of my brush wet, and I've got, my paint is movable. So it's that's how I get that tea consistency. It moves. At the same time, if you need to make sure you don't have too much water on your brush, just dip it off the tip and it'll get rid of that. And then let's make this little guy a little smaller. Not too small. Something like that. Kind of like it peeking out from behind this little stem here too. That's kind of interesting. So there we go. And then we'll go into our gold. Start adding that in. And this one too, because it's behind a stem and it's kind of in the background, I feel like it might have some more gold in it than the other ones here. And we'll go into that beautiful orange. Tapping in, making sure we're not getting rid of all of our white space. A little bit of the brown. Let me pick up some more of that. There we go. We'll touch in. Yeah, I like that. Yeah, be very careful that you're not dotting in so much that next thing you know, all of your white space has disappeared. Okay, so I think that's nice. I like that. I like that effect. I like that look. And now what I noticed about these little guys, the other thing I really liked is they had these fun little wispy, in my store here anyway, that's how they looked, leaves. So I'm going to use the tip of my brush to make those thin leaves. There we go. Look at what fun lines I can get with this brush. Really love it. And I might play with some of those colors, make some of them darker. Just very lightly. You could even, the higher back or the farther back you hold your brush, it's going to give me a lot more looser type of look. So if I want these to be a little squiggly or something like that, that's a good way to achieve that. The farther up you hold on your brush, you're going to have more control. I think the last thing I'll do here is maybe create a little bit of a yellowy green and go in with some of that. So let's pick up our lemon yellow and cad yellow and mix it with some of my green. And we'll go in and add just a few more. Move back on my brush, light pressure. And just letting the brush kind of dance. And look how pretty. I love that. To me, that is really fun and beautiful. And I've got these different yellowy greens and greens in these fun little stems at the bottom, and I think I'm pretty much done with that. So there you go. Have fun. Again, this would be so pretty tucked inside or popping out of the side of your floral arrangements. I really feel like that could give it some fun, and they're very easy to do. So there you go. I will list all of my supplies. I don't think I'll do a companion kit or tutorial kit because it's pretty easy. So I'll probably just do this tutorial on it and have fun with it. I will list all of my paintings in the descriptions, and I will see you all soon. Thanks so much, everyone.